All right, we're back. We got a very special guest for you. He is a world-renowned, multi-talented writer, producer, multi-instrumentalist. Please welcome LEMOYNE Alexander.
Hi, everybody.
LEMOYNE, great to see you. Give us a little bit of background. I know you've got so many skills. You're that one-man band. You've got so many great songs. Want to talk a little bit about the history of it. Talk about your first beginnings in music. What was the first instrument? At what age, and how did that develop your passion for what you do?
Um, the beginning always starts with me playing guitar when I was about 11, 12 years old. And I was influenced by a lot of rock gods like Eric Clapton, Brian May from Queen,
Yes.
and these guys were like giants to me. And I couldn't play. No one really taught me how to play. I had to learn by watching. We didn't have like budgets in the family for me to go to music school and any of that stuff. So I had to learn all that on my own. And I watched enough midnight specials and rock concerts as a kid, while everybody else was outside playing and doing kid things, I was in front of the TV trying to play guitar. And that's how I got started. And my brother bought my first real guitar was a Fender Strat for my birthday, for my 13th birthday.
Wow.
And
That first guitar, did you beg your mom for it, or how did you get that first one at 11?
at 11, this is just weird story, true stories too. I got suspended from school for fighting. And my mother didn't want to be bothered with me at that time, so she sent me to my dad's. And I was so crazy. I was like, man, I'm going to go crazy in this house. And I was looking for something in the closet, in the front closet, and I was reaching through the closet and I got pricked. Something cut my fingers, and I pulled the clothes back, and it was a guitar. And it happened to be my uncle's guitar. So it was all beat up and everything, and I just grabbed it, and I tore it apart and refixed everything. Didn't know what I was doing, but I did it. And I managed to, there was only two strings on there. And I managed to just start playing and playing. Didn't know what I was doing, but I was enthused by it. And I used to get a weekly allowance, which was about $2. And I took my allowance and went straight to the music store. And I took the guitar in, and he took it, cleaned it up, fixed it and everything. And then about a week later, he called me and said, you can come pick it up. And when I picked it up, it had all six strings on there and everything. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I decided that was the moment that I wanted to learn how to play guitar.
Mhm.
So they back then we didn't have like instructional books, and at least I didn't know anything about it. The only way I learned was by watching, which was at the time music television,
Yeah,
which
TV
was,
shows.
yeah, that was it for me. That's how I learned.
Well, the Strat is obviously famous for Jimi
Yeah,
Hendrix
Jimi
and
Hendrix.
Eric
Yeah,
Clapton and Robin Trower, and yeah, so many
most
great guitar.
definitely.
David Gilmour, Pink Floyd, all
Yes,
the greats.
yes.
It
And it's
was
funny
it was
because,
either the Gibson Les Paul or the Fender Strat. That was like the
oh,
choice.
I knew I wasn't gonna get my hands on that. So when my brother he bought it for me for my 13th birthday, and he closed your eyes. And we was out in the basement, we were rehearsing and everything, and he came down. I don't know where he got the money from, but he bought the guitar for me, and I almost cried. I was like, "Wow, this is the real thing." And from that point on, I was every day after school, at nighttime, the guitar was in the bed with me. So, before I go to school and everything, I rehearse with it every day. And that's what got me started on the guitar. In fact, it was my leading instrument that got me, that was my main instrument, and
Yes,
then I started playing bass. When we didn't have a bass player in our family
yeah,
band,
very similar to the guitar, just two less strings.
yeah, it's just four strings. So I was like picking up then I studied, when you're listening to music, you don't you studied that one instrument. Then I had to go and study all of the songs that we were rehearsing, the bass lines. And then I figured it out. Oh my God, the bass is what keeps the song, with the kick drum and the drums. Without the bass and the drums, all you have is guitar. So I learned how to do all of that on my own. I taught myself how to do it.
Well, that's exciting. And then you got to learn how to tune it. I mean, they got automatic tuners and everything now, but back then you had to,
Well,
hear a note,
I
tune it
did,
to.
I knew how to play, but I did not know how to tune. It took like a lot of rehearsals. Like, dude, your guitar is not tuned. I'm like, how do you do it?
Got to go
So
back to the
and
music store and ask them, "How you guys got a
yeah,
tuner?"
then
They used to have a
E
tuning
A
fork.
B G
You would hit
E.
a
I
A
didn't
note
know
or
any of it. But like I said, I got through it because I was determined to learn.
yeah. Well,
And
that's the punk rock attitude. It's passion over perfection.
I wanted to learn. It was a major thing for me to learn this guitar. If it was anything I wanted to know, I knew I wanted to play that guitar, and
That's
that's why I
beautiful.
started with it.
Well, obviously at that point you're listening to a lot of records. Did you start, with your buddies jamming? Did you start to learn other people's songs? And if you did, who were some of those?
Yeah. We as we were growing, and once I started my teens, it was the funk era had just boomed. It just started to boom. Now, I didn't know anything about funk. All I knew was rock because that's what I grew up listening to.
Right.
So it was everything. And the one record that really stuck out to me was "Play That Funky Music, White Boy"
Oh yeah.
by Wild Cherry.
Wild Cherry, yeah, from Cleveland,
And, and,
Ohio.
and it was crossing the line between both R&B and rock.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, we could play this, and I learned how to play the solo, I learned how to play the riff and everything. And that kicked off some newer songs that branched out for me to
Hmm.
learn. And I just picked it up. It wasn't from me learning how to play rock and going primarily into funk wasn't that hard because some of the guitar stuff in the funk music was a lot less than it would be in doing all these chords and riffs and stuff in rock music. Thin Lizzy was one of my favorite bands. I
Oh
love
yeah.
the swing guitars that they used to use all the
Oh
time.
yeah. Those twin
And
guitars,
the
Scott
boys are back in
Gorham and
town.
Brian Robinson. Yeah, it was like just ringing, and of course Phil Lana,
Oh my
the
God, I would
singer, he's
not know.
playing bass and he's got all that soul in
Yeah.
his voice, a black Irishman.
Yes. So when I studied all of that, it was easy to go into funk because it wasn't that much to do with guitars in funk music. And, I propelled from that,
Oh
from
yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, look at George Clinton. I
Yeah.
mean, Parliament was one half of his mind, Funkadelic was another, and
That
Funkadelic
was,
was pure psychedelic pop.
yes, ingenious. It was ingenious. That was a smart move to have his funk side and his rock side all
Yeah.
together, and the whole funkadelic scene, the psychedelic sound of the Jimi Hendrix
Yeah.
and the Ohio
Oh
players
yeah.
and Confunction and the Bar Caves. They had that one side. Yeah, they got to appeal to the radio and everything, but then they branch off and do what they really do. And that's what I was trying to filter in. Like I want to hear what these guys can really do. So
Oh
I would
yeah.
go to see them in concert, and majority of their concerts was, them being themselves, and I learned a lot from them.
Well,
It,
look at the influence they had on the Red Hot Chili Peppers and
yes,
Primus and
yes,
Incubus
yes,
and all these bands, these rock bands that knew.
yes,
Look at Led Zeppelin. A lot of people, I just
yes.
heard somebody recently said John Bonham, who's considered one of the greatest drummers ever, was
Mhm.
really a funk drummer. The
Yes, it
groove
was.
was so important. You listen to
You're the
some
only
Led
person
Zeppelin
that
songs.
you're the only person that ever really knew that talks about that. But that's crazy. Yes, he was a funk drummer. That's how he got started. John Bonham, he's the foot man. If you pay attention to his bottom, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous, all soulful.
oh, the groove between him and John Paul Jones on bass gave that platform with Robert Plant, this young, soulful singer, just belting it out.
He was
And then
my
Jimmy Page from the Yardbirds just took everybody's heads off with his innovative
yes.
guitar and song. So, yeah, no,
Stairway
Led
to
Zeppelin had a
Heaven.
lot of funk, a lot of groove, a lot of soul.
Stairway to Heaven was a very influential song. I mean, I stressed myself trying to learn that solo, and it took me almost a year to actually master it. And everybody was like, "Man, how did you learn how to do that?" Because I listened to it every day and I practiced it every day and I learned it. There was no way for me to. I played it live, and when we do rehearsals and everything, I don't think we ever played that song in concert, but I had to learn it. Anything that like strikes me here in the heart, I don't care whether we're playing it live or not. I'm going to learn it if it really gets to me, and I feel like that's the next level of my playing guitar. I'm going to learn it.
Yeah, it's like a
And sometimes,
challenge, to
yeah,
get to the next level, you got to complete that challenge to go to the
yeah.
next.
And it took me a year to learn that song, the Stairway to Heaven solo. I give that man his props. It helped me to be a better guitar player.
Yeah. Well, it's to me, great music comes in all those forms. It either
Yeah,
moves you or it doesn't. Whether it leans more rock, more soul, more funk, more pop, more reggae, more whatever it is, if it moves you, that's all that matters. And so many people, fall prey to that,
yeah,
when
they do.
industry or radio is trying to put in a box. Well, this is rock and this is soul and this is hip
You
hop.
know,
This is,
I, I'm gonna
it's
tell
really
you.
a hybrid.
I'm gonna tell you this. I was criticized growing up because I like rock, and I'm a black man that likes rock. And I used to say back in the day, music has no color, never, and still till this day, I preach that. I can learn how to play a guitar and a riff and rock and just like every other man. And people criticize those who challenges their musical background and some of the things that they grew up listening to as opposed to what they are forced to listen to. I was forced to listen to the R&B and all of that because it was in my household. I grew up with it. My brothers was into it, but I had to step away from it because it wasn't me. What was me was me playing my guitar. Those guitars that I grew up listening to was it was the essence of my life. It was like the soundtrack of my life. Everybody was buying Funkadelic and Parliament and Ohio Players, and I was still buying Rush and Led Zeppelin, Thin Lizzy's, and I'm studying the guitar more so than studying the voice.
Yeah.
My dad used to tell me um, when I was younger, you need to be up front singing. My brother was the singer at first, my
Okay.
youngest brother. And he said, "No, you need to be up front singing. Forget about the guitar." And I'm like, "No, I'm never going to forget about the guitar. And I'm not going to just jump in front, grab a mic, and do all of that, unless I have a guitar in my hand." He said, "Well, okay, but you still need to be up front singing." So it was all about the music to me first. When we would create these songs and record these songs, my brain was on the studying of the actual song more so than the lyrics and the singing. And then it come time for me to sing, and I go, "Okay, so what do we do?" And I don't know what I'm singing or whatever because I'm not that guy. I'm not the actual writer. It took me literally, I think I was 18 years old, and I've been doing music ever since I was 11
Yeah.
for me to actually write a song, my first song for me to write.
Okay.
I was playing music that long. So,
And how did it feel when you completed that song and you had something you could play and teach others to play?
um, the song was the Hideaway in Times Square, which was weird name. But my dad came to me. He said, we're going into the studio. Do you have any songs? And I told him, I said, yeah, I got these two new songs, and I played them on my guitar for him. He said, these are great. Let's record them. So when we all got into the studio, there was no drum machines. Everything was live. So I had to work with each person in the band to get them to play the song that I heard in my head. And by the time we got, and it was all musical first, by the time we got to the song for me to do the vocals, that's where I lacked because I hadn't really rehearsed on anything vocally, but I knew what I was hearing in my head. So they said, well, just let them do. I said, just let me come up with some ideas, some demos and stuff. So I went in there and I just sang what I sang, it was just there. I didn't even write anything down. I just went in there and was singing just so I can get a feel and direction of the song. And they just fell in love with it. It was like, let's just keep it the way it is. So that's what we did. And we did the same on the backside, the flip side of the record, we did the same thing. The formula was always the same when we go into the studio. I just go with the flow. Majority of the time, I didn't write stuff down. I just sang. And if I get a bad word or something that didn't match, then we would stop. We're dealing with, remember, 2-inch reels. You remember them days?
Analog.
Yeah, the big thick tape. So it wasn't
Yeah,
no
to
like,
edit it, you had to take a razor blade and tape.
yeah. So my dad's looking at me like, what is wrong with you? We got to finish this, and it's costing me a fortune. And I'm like, man, what do you want me to do? That
Yeah, you
word
had
was
to do
wrong.
it. You either had to do it in one take, or you
Yeah.
had to have somebody good with a razor blade.
Yep.
That was your two options.
Yep. They gave us back in those days. They gave us 3 chances. We go in, we fuck up on the first one. You go back on the second one and third one. That's it. And then you have to cut and paste everything. But I always got it on the second. Usually the first or the second. I was fortunate that way. And nowadays, when I record, from learning from those old days when we used to do that when I was a kid, I trust my instincts when I record, like Insecurity, all these songs that I record, I do them on my first take. They're a
Yeah.
keeper. I don't go back and say, oh, I could do that better, or let me change the foundation of it, because then it takes away from the creativity that came from my heart or from the universe, wherever this stuff comes from,
Yeah.
not to change it. And I don't want to change it. So when you hear Insecurity and all these other songs that I've done, these are all first takes, all of
Well, they often say the first take is the best, and a
them.
lot of producers won't allow a singer to do more than two or three takes because they're like, nah, it's not fresh. Obviously, if you miss a lyric, of course you got to go back and redo it or,
Now,
edit it. But
I'll
that
give you,
first take, second
yeah,
take, it's the raw emotion.
yes, yes. So as a producer, once I started producing other artists, I use that same method, the way I record. And I would record an artist on their first take because that's the reality of what they're delivering. And you can never get it back. If they go back and do a second or a third or a fourth, it's never as good as the first. Never. So I always, okay, let me hide this track and keep it over there and then let them do whatever they want. Maybe I'll get something out of it and put it in the original, but I always keep that original track. And one artist I actually worked with back in the day, he was hell bent on doing take after take. And I'm just like, okay, I got the first one, but if you want to waste time doing 10 more, go right ahead. I'll let him do it. And then we got to about maybe about 13 or 14 takes of the lead vocal. By the time we got ready to mix this record, we had to go I listened to each and every one of them, took a piece from each and every one, and it never matched the very first one that he did. And we ended up using the first one.
Yeah, you're overthinking it by trying to perfect it. You're micromanaging something that's just pure.
Exactly.
It flows.
And it's the same thing with rap. It's the same thing with any format of music. Your first take is always your best. take because you're not sure, you're nervous about it, and it's just going to come out. You know, everything it's angelic to me. It's like realistic to me. You know, and so I took that same formula that I was working with other people with, and I used it for my own stuff. You know, I'm like, I'm not gonna, you know, re overthink any of my music. So when you hear my music, it's always know it's the first take. For me, it's always the first. Now, when we're talking about backgrounds, that's different. You know, I sometimes I play around and comes up with background parts, and I'm no, I don't like that. Let me try this or something like that. And I don't put too much backgrounds into my lead vocals unless it's needed. But my lead vocals are always first takes, always.
Mhm. Well, I know you've been influenced by a lot of songwriters.
Yeah.
You got your own flow. You keep growing your songwriting craft. I know you mentioned a lot of people you look up to, like the Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl.
Yes.
Then
It's
you
one of my
got
favorite bands.
oh yeah, Aerosmith, Steven Tyler, and Joe Perry,
Yes.
Brad
There's
Whitford.
a there's a story about me and Steven Tyler. We were supposed to do a record together.
Mm.
On my first album. It's called Undeniable.
Yes.
And he was supposed to do the second verse. And I wrote it primarily for him to be on the song. And at the time, the managers that I was working with knew him. So when she reached out to him, he heard the song and he fell in love with it. It's like, man, but I'm on tour. It's kind of hard for me to do it. And I was like, well, the record company was pressuring me to hurry up and finish the song because they was trying to put the record out. And I was like, hold on. We got to give Steven his chance to do this. And so we would keep communicating. We will always communicate. I'm talking to him. We're emailing, we're texting, we're doing everything. Well, I'm in this city, that city, this city. He was everywhere. I'm like, man, can he just break off and just go into the studio and cut it somewhere? And he didn't have the time. So he called my management and then he sent me an email and he apologized. He said he just doesn't have the time, and that's why we just went with we proceeded with the record without him. But it would, I believe it would have been a great record if Steven Tyler was on that record. And he loved the record, and I think it would have been a fabulous record. But we never got a chance to do it because he was too busy. And that's usually the case when you got like a icon artist like him, and you're trying to do a record with him. Is everybody has their career, and they're trying to do things in their career, and if they can take out time to work with somebody else, that's good. I mean, I'm the same way. I get a lot of calls to help people and do duets with people and stuff. If it fits my schedule, I'll do it. It's the way
Yeah,
it
with
is.
Steven, he started as a drummer, and he's always loved that rhythmic, soulful rock and soul. Is what I
Yeah,
call it. I
yeah.
mean, look at when they teamed up with Run DMC and put hip hop on a major platform. Walk This Way. I mean,
Yes.
the first time you hear the song, it's got that swagger, got that attitude, and
Yes.
then all of a sudden, Rick Rubin gets his hands on it, and Run and Daryl will say, "Well, we want to sample that song." He says, "Why sample it? I think I can get the actual guys, in here to do it with you." And that brought Aerosmith back. That brought Run
Yeah.
DMC to arena level covers of Rolling Stone and MTV. I mean, it catapulted
And it helped their
everybody.
career. Yeah, it
Oh, it
helped both
was.
of their careers because both of them was drowning. And something so iconic like that can help propel their careers together. That was monumental to me.
Oh, it
Rock and
was.
rap together.
It,
That to
it,
me
it was one of the greatest pairings and hybrids of
ever.
all time. Then all of a
I didn't
sudden you
think
had
they could be done.
Anthrax trying to do the same with, Public Enemy and Chuck
Yes.
D, and everybody's trying to get
Yes.
that formula. The
Prophet
Red Hot Chili
Jesus,
Peppers are
Rage
hiring
Against the
George
Machine
Clinton and
and all
everybody
these.
to make their record.
Yes, that's where these bands come from. Rock rap is a major force now. So it's a whole nother genre now.
Yeah. And I know you've been a long time admirer of the Rolling Stones. I mean, look at Mick Jagger. The guy's in his 80s and still
Yeah.
hits that stage like he's 20 and schools
Yes.
these youngsters on how it's
Yes.
done, and they've been doing it for over
No
60
idea.
years.
He's one of my biggest influences that keeps me doing this.
Yeah.
I look at him and I go, wow, if he could do it, I could do it too. So, yeah,
And their latest album was a big hit, and the tour just
yeah,
sold out multiple nights in the biggest cities and stadiums of the world.
yes.
But others, I know you admire Sting and the Police. I helped break those
Mhm.
guys back in the late
Yep, and they're still
'70s.
touring. They're still touring. Everybody's
Oh,
still touring.
Sting is
Yeah.
playing stadiums with Billy Joel. People will pay big money to hear those songs from the original singer.
Yes. This is why I keep going. I keep going for that reason because I know that I can do the same thing, you know. And my reason for walking away from the whole R&B rap is not because of what people think. It's because I want to go back to what I'm comfortable playing. Rock has just been something that I have been living with for years. Even when I was doing rap and hip hop and all that, I still had rock influence tracks that that people will come to me for. I throw a guitar somewhere in there. There'd be a guitar. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah, you look at Lenny Kravitz. He can
he's
sing a
another one.
ballad like the best of them, or
Yes,
bring it down slow. But then he turns around and are you going to go my way? He cranks up the flying V's and they rock it out, and they love it all over the world.
yes. This is so true. Yep.
Yeah, and of course I know you also respect the Eagles out there
Eagles
on
is
that
one of the
big.
bands that was in my playlist as a child. When I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and we had our personal radios in our room. Eagles was always on the radio. One of these days in Hotel California, I learned these songs. These are songs that were resonated in my life. So when I play my guitar, I learned these are the songs that I had to learn. And I promise you, after learning all of these songs, everything that I basically learned how to play, these influences are in the newest in my career. These are songs that you can hear some of the elements in some of my songs, you know, and people go, wow, this song sounds like this song or that song or whatever. I say, yeah, these guys were a huge influence to me. So I had to learn how to play it. And so now when you hear it, it kind of reminds you of these classic records back in the old days.
Yeah, no question. Classic rock, classic soul, classic alternative. And of course I know you got your ear out there for some of the newer bands, Dirty Honey, Gary Clark Jr., Black
Yeah,
Keys,
yeah.
Offspring.
These are my bands. I love
Yeah,
these.
these are
Chevelle.
disciples of the great eras.
Yes. Chevelle is one of my top bands. I love that band. 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin. You
Right.
know, I love these bands. Highly influenced bands. They keep me. People talk about like Rick Springfield. Rick Springfield too was a major influence to me. Because he did everything himself as well. Prince,
Right, right.
Prince was the same way. These guys did everything themselves, and you know, me deciding on doing everything, I was like a magnet with learning. For me, whatever I didn't know, I was there to learn, and I'd pick it up from anybody that would show it to me. And learning to play drums, learning to play guitar, keyboards, and bass, and all of this, even harmonica and congos and percussions. I taught myself all these instruments, and I'm influenced by guys who can do that. Prince, I really didn't believe he can do all of that until I actually seen him and studied his career and realized oh my God, this guy is a genius. And there's a lot of artists out there that's actually playing all of the instruments themselves that don't get the recognition that they deserve.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean, Dave Grohl recorded all the parts on that first Foo Fighters
every
record.
every Foo Fighter record he played it all, and I'm a big fan of his because of that. You know, I he wanted to project the energy of what he was trying to create, and he couldn't get everybody to do it, so he did it himself. And that's the same thing that happened to me. I can't get these guys to play what I want them to play, so I play it myself. And
Same with Edward Van Halen's son Wolfgang with the group
yeah,
Mammoth
yeah,
WVH. I mean, he
right,
he's in the studio. He's like, well, I started as a drummer. I play guitar. I've always known bass. I played bass in Van Halen.
yeah,
Why shouldn't I play it? It's going to take me longer to try and teach it to somebody, and they probably won't get it how I hear it in my head. So I might as well lay it down.
yeah. And that's the basics for me. When I structure a song, it's always guitar driven. That's the first thing I lay down. Is the idea from it comes from the guitar first.
Mm.
And then I put drums under it just so I could keep a bottom going. Then I'll add all of the flavor on top. The very last thing on all of my songs is the bass. It's the very last thing. I put the spices come after the guitar riff. My guitars is always first and foremost in every song, but the spices come after that, and then the bottom is the last thing.
She must have a good sense of rhythm because a lot of people lay the drums down as that metronome and then put
Yes,
the guitar over the top.
yeah, I
You
can't
do
do
the
that.
guitar and
The
then
guitar
lay the
first. Yeah.
drums.
You give me a metronome, and I'm playing against the metronome. And I'm keeping the timing as I'm playing it with the metronome in my head. I can hear where I want to go with the changes and the bridges and everything. So that's why I can't, because you never know. See, when you lay drums first, those rolls and those fills and everything,
Uh-huh.
then you put guitars on it. Those fills don't fit the guitars,
Right.
and you doing fills at the wrong spot. So now you got to replay everything all over again once you get the actual structure of the guitar. So I said, I did that way though. But once I figured it out, I just write the song with the guitar all the way from beginning to the end, and I make sure the timing is there. So when I lay the drums down, now I'm hearing, okay, I'm playing the drums with the verse. Now I got to break it down. Now we got the hook line that's coming up. Now I got to be big on the hook. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
So when I lay the structure from the actual guitar, the guitar print is my leading instrument. But when I get to the drums, that's the bottom. So now I'm structuring the drums according to the guitar. And then I'll put the spices in. All the spices go in after that. And then to complete it, that's when I put the bass in. That's the thumping or the bottom or whatever that needs to go in, to give it that fatness and the bottom that it needs. My bass is always last. And then I do the vocals. Simple as
Amazing.
that.
Now, I
That's
know another chapter in your life that brings us to this point is your group State of Grace, STR, the number 8, State of
yes.
Grace. Talk about what you learned the most from that experience that brings you to your music today.
Well, when I walked away from rap, um, I was giving up. I said, I'm done with the whole rap scene and everything. And I love rock. And I just happened to be in a record store one time, and I said, I could do this. And I I don't know, I just grabbed whatever that influenced me, and I took the CD home and I listened to it over and over again. And I studied it, and I noticed the drums were a lot less than hip hop. So I'm listening to the buildup of all of the songs that are structuring in rock. And so I said, okay, I can do this. So I gave myself at least 2 weeks to come up with a song. So I the song that I practice on the most with just demoing and learning how to create a rock song was I Want You to Want Me. I want you to
Cheap
want me.
Trick
Yeah, that was my
from
very
Rockford, Illinois.
yeah, that's my first song. But it wasn't for me to record. It was just something for me to learn how to, to structure a song. I hear what they did, how they did it, and okay, let me get them drums the way that they did it, and guitar, and then the bass, and the whole thing. And once I got it down, I think about a week later, I got it down. Then I said, okay, now let me create my own music. And so at that time, my first song was Life Goes On with State of Grace. And once again, I did the whole entire song myself. And I did another song after that. I'm trying to remember which one it was. It was a different song. And these guys came by the house and everyone was like, "You did all of that?" I was like, "Yeah, I want to put a band together." "You want to put a band together?" I was like, he said, I got this guy. I want you to go check him out. So he called me up and I went to a rehearsal group called Black Thumb Metal Band.
Hmm.
And I went to check them out. And after rehearsal, the leader came to me and said, "Hey, I heard about you. Can you write a song for us?" And I was like, "Sure, no problem." And the bass player, I was really intrigued by the bass player because he was different than most bass players. And the weirdest thing about him was the band was having problems with him. And so they would call me and would shit all over this guy. And I'm like, it's a bass player. And I finally, after I think like the last rehearsal, I got with the bass player. And as they were leaving rehearsal, because I gave them a song for them to work on. I went back to the house and I wrote a song and I gave it to them. And he came to me. He was like, "They don't want to work on your song, but I love your song." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine." And he pulled me to the side, was like, "I'm about to leave this band." And then it clicked. Like it hit me like, "You're leaving the band for what?" And he told me he wanted to just do something different. "I like your type of music." And I was like, "Okay, well, maybe we should start a band." And he said, "Yeah, let's do it." So me and him got together at my house and we came up with some more songs together. He said, "Man, I got a guitar player for you." He went and got a guitar player. And I said, "Well, I got a drummer," which happens to be my brother. And that's how State of Grace was created. We went from there and we started. The four of us, we was just creating every day. I tore my whole house down. I took the instruments completed. I took the furniture out and filled the whole house with rehearsal stuff, and we rehearsed every single day. I don't even remember when we were playing. We wasn't even playing cover songs. We were just creating brand new songs. And we did Life Goes On, and all these other songs came. 15 Minutes came about, and before you know it, they were playing it. And a friend of ours, we gave the record to her, and she listened to it. And somehow she gave us a call back and said, "Hey, this a friend of mine heard your song and they want to know if they can put it on the radio." And I'm like, "Duh, yeah, put it on the radio." They
You
put
need
it
to
on the
ask.
radio. Yeah, exactly. Like, "Are you serious?" She said, "Man, I love this song. Life Goes On. It's going to be a huge hit." And um, they played it on the radio, and it jumped from like 100 to like 12. And they called us up and they wanted to do an interview. They wanted to meet us. And, you know, that was the beginning of State of Grace. And we took it from there. We just kept doing music, and we got a record deal. And right after the record deal, we did the first album. And then the band broke up. Then we regrouped again for the second album. And, from the second album, we did the Queen record, and we
Which
progressed.
Queen record?
Killer Queen,
Oh wow,
our
that was their
biggest record.
first. That was their first breakout single.
Yeah, and we collaborated with Queen. Of course, Freddie wasn't there, but I had to do Freddie's vocals, and I had no idea that song was going to blow up. It blew up bigger. It was one of my which was stated Grits is one of the biggest records that we ever did.
Wow. That's incredible. Well,
Yeah.
it brings us to your new music. I know this is part of an album, so get ready. There's an album coming, multiple singles, and we're hearing this incredible song, Insecurity.
Yes.
And you know, it's gaining so much momentum. You got your lyrics in there. I can't trust the way I treat you every day. You better be prepared to hold on tight and get away. I don't want to bring my past into your future. It's better for you to go back to him and stay. Talk about the impetus for this song and what you're most proud of achieving, laying this down.
Uh, I was really going through some personal moments in during the creation of that song, and for me, music has always been therapy, and I use my music for therapy. Sometimes I'll create songs that I know that's not going to come out, and I don't want to put them out. It's just for me to get through whatever
Yeah,
period that I'm
it's a
going.
release.
Yeah, and that was one of the songs, and I'd listen to it, and it would encourage me to whatever I wrote that song for, it'll encourage me to do better, or to be more fruitful of the choices and decisions that I make. And during that moment, I was going through some really hard times, and I couldn't trust anybody, nobody at that moment. My insecurities was so bad, you know, I I didn't have any way to release it other than through music. And I'd warn people, especially people who were trying to get with me at the time, and even be friends with me, let alone try to have a girlfriend or anything. I'm the wrong time. This is the wrong time for me. I don't know how to help you. I don't know what you want from me, or whatever the circumstances was. And I thought, if I write a song like this, it'd help me. But, when the record company heard it, they were like, this is a song that needs to go out in the world, because this can help a lot of other people. And I didn't recognize that. I was like, oh, I'm cool with it. If they want to put it out, they can put it out. But, I didn't know that it touched a lot of people, and it has touched. I've never seen the feedback. The feedback is just unbelievable. It has touched a lot of people since this release. But as I said, it's always been my song for therapy, and I guess it's everybody else's too now.
Well, I guess it's almost more natural to have an insecurity than this confidence. You got to work at the confidence sometimes. Some comes natural, but
Yeah,
everybody has insecurities they work on or they come across.
yeah, that's
But I,
true.
I think at the bottom of it, it's just a really catchy song.
Thank you.
Like I say, you hit the ground running. There's no big lead up or intro to the song. You just blast them right with the lyrics in the
As soon
first
as it comes
verse.
on,
It
you
just
know,
hits them over the head.
yeah.
Chorus, you
Well,
know.
the reason why I did it is because, like I said, it was therapy for me. I don't want to just put it on and have to wait to hear this. I want to get to it right, get to the story right away. So, you and so when we get to, like, from the verses to the hooks and all of that, this is the point of the song that helps me, you know, do the build up for the song and everything. But if you pay attention to the lyrics is mostly defined by, being direct and upfront with people, and telling you, and I guess people are using this as a platform to be realistic and straightforward with people, because when you have insecurities is not nothing to joke around with. You know, people are insecure, and it's going to show in a lot of ways. You know, some good, some bad, but there's still insecurities. And sometimes we try to hide from them, but you know, we deal with. I like to put everything out on the table. You
Yeah.
know, hey, this is
It's
how
a
it is.
challenge to overcome. You can be stronger by overcoming it.
I'm not gonna hide. I'm gonna tell you the truth up front and just tell you, you know, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. And I respect the other person that they do the same thing too. You know, at least if you got an option to decide. And it's not just for a relationship. This could be in workplace. It could be anything in life. You know, we're insecure about a lot of things. Our facial, you know, the way we look, the way
Yeah.
our
Look,
bodies look.
status,
Yeah, you know,
appearance.
everything, you know, and facing your insecurities is like a really strong thing to do that a lot of times people we care about don't share these things with you and because they don't know how to deal with their own insecurities, let alone teach you about yours. So, you know, that's why I did the song. So it can
Well, I
help
know
me
it's
with
I know it's first of many. You know, you got Daydreaming coming up. You got lots of great songs. Are there any other song titles or anything you can share with us?
yeah, I have a song called Claustrophobia, Another Day, Alone, Human, another song called Human Heart. And these are great songs, you know. Daydreaming. That's one of my favorites.
And what are you going to call the album?
Alone. It's called
Wow.
Alone. The
And
definition
what's the
of alone.
significance of that? How do you choose that?
Well, a lot of people don't know how to deal with things. You just naturally feel like you want to be, you have to have somebody in your life. You know, you need to be validated by having someone. And people are scared of being alone. So I faced the challenges of being alone, and that's why the album is called The Definition of Being Alone. It's facing the actual challenges of being alone. And you know, I talked it over with my manager, and this has been the format of the album. Like you should call it Alone because you know that's what he was like pushing at me, and I was like, man, you know. And I thought about it. I was like, yes, I have faced a lot of situations alone. And so I thought, okay, that's a platform. That's like the blueprint of the album where you actually can hear the songs and they all connect to each other. There's a connection on each and every one of the songs that lead up to Alone. You know, I'm doing some different things with this album. You know, there's some guests. I have Twister on there. We're trying to work with MJK. We're doing choir. You know, it's going to be some beautiful songs on here that resonate. That
Yeah.
should be resonate with the fans and everything.
Well, even with a title like Alone, it just draws you in. You want to know why, where, how,
Exactly.
why,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know it's a feast for the music lovers. People are already loving Insecurity. More's coming. Get
Yes.
ready. We're ready to see you out there, performing. And, we're working on some very, very cool tour and events and stuff like that for
I'm
you.
looking
So,
forward to it. I'm
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, it's exciting. I know you grew up looking at the Warp Tour. I mean,
Oh yeah.
more stars were broken on the Warp Tour than anyone from, Paramore to Green Day to Blink 182 to Eminem to I
Yeah.
mean 21 Pilots to the list is voluminous.
Yes, it is.
So lots to come. And of course, we encourage everyone to go to your Instagram. That's
Please.
Lemoyne_Alexander. Check him out also on YouTube and all the greats. So you got a cool little video for Insecurity.
Yes.
Lemoyne, always a pleasure. We look forward to spreading the word and getting back to you and doing a follow-up interview soon. Stay strong, and we look forward to great new music.
Thank you. I had a pleasure. This was a pleasure to me.